Elias Renn first heard the tapping on a windless Tuesday night, a small and polite sound nudging at the edge of sleep. It wasn't a bold kind of noise that demanded attention, more like a shy interruption that hoped he wouldn't mind. Tap, pause, tap, tap, pause again. He rose slightly from his pillow and blinked through the dark. His room was a constellation of faint shapes, the wardrobe hunched like an old thinker in the corner, the desk scattered with notebooks, the curtains swaying as the radiator exhaled. Everything familiar, everything still, except for the tapping. The digits on his phone glowed 3:12 a.m. He waited. The tapping didn't continue, and silence returned so naturally that he began to doubt he'd heard anything at all. Maybe the house settling, he told himself. Maybe a branch. Maybe his imagination, which tended to roam freely at night. By morning, he'd forgotten enough to function, though not enough to ignore. The second night, it returned, this time at 3:07 a.m., tapping with slightly more confidence. Tap, 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 like a soft, irregular heartbeat. Elias sat up the moment he heard it and walked to the window, expecting to find a branch or loose gutter to blame. But outside the pane, the quiet street glowed under the watch of a single flickering streetlight. No branches touched the glass, nothing swung in the wind. The air was still and oddly expectant. When he looked directly at the window, the tapping stopped entirely. On night 3, it moved. Instead of the window, the sound came from inside the room. A light touch on the floorboard, a hesitant tap against the wall. Elias listened with growing unease. Something about the rhythm felt intentional, too patient to be random. He whispered a soft, "Hello," into the dark. The sound seemed to fall straight through the floor, disappearing without echo. No answer. The tapping resumed near the desk, then stopped again when he sat up. He turned on the lamp. Empty room. No movement. No real reason to feel the sudden cold that hugged his arms. He spent the rest of the night awake, watching shadows shift in their usual harmless ways. Millwater Road had always been quiet. That was why he moved there, hoping its peace would help with his audio editing work. Maybe it did at first, but lately the silence felt less like calm and more like anticipation. His neighbors waved politely yet quickly, as though they didn't want conversation to last long enough to mention his address. The kids on the street never rode their bikes near his house. They orbited it as if it gave off a soft heat. On the 4th night, he prepared. Coffee by the desk, lamp on low, headphones ready to mask the unease. The house grew strangely attentive around 3 a.m., the air thinning as though bracing for something. At 3:03 exactly, the tapping began. High on the wall this time, then the ceiling, then near the closet door, always pausing, always adjusting, like something navigating by sound alone. He turned on his audio recorder, hoping to catch proof. The moment he did, a soft, hollow exhale drifted across the room. It wasn't the sigh of a person, more like the breath of a place waking up. The tapping traveled again, gentle but bold, and then his recorder clicked. The red light went off. It had turned itself off. The next afternoon, he stopped by the pharmacy, desperate for something to help him sleep. An elderly man browsing the shelves turned slowly when Elias mentioned his address to the pharmacist. "You live on Millwater Road," his voice trembling like dusty paper. Elias nodded. "How long have you been waking at 3? Something cold pressed along Elias's spine. Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He simply pressed a small brass key into Elias's hand. Ornate, weighty, wrong for the modern world. "Don't talk back to it. and don't let it know you can hear." Then he shuffled out the door and vanished into the morning mist. The key led him to a door he hadn't noticed before, barely visible in the shadowed hallway. It was locked, and the brass key opened it effortlessly. The room inside was long and narrow, air stale as if forgotten by time. A single chair sat facing the far wall, turned away from him, positioned like someone had been sitting there listening. Scratch marks doodled faint patterns across the floorboards, the kind made by furniture dragged and redragged over decades. He shut the door, locked it again, left the key on the kitchen table, and tried not to think about it. Night 5 arrived on quiet feet. He wanted to sleep through it, but his body was trained now. 3:03 arrived like a ritual. A single tap echoed from behind his bedroom door, followed by another, sharper one. He held perfectly still. The tapping shifted to knocking, 2 small knocks, almost polite, as if asking permission to enter. He whispered before he could stop himself, "I know you're there." The house froze, the knocking stopped, and silence bloomed like a held breath. No footsteps, no retreat, just waiting. At dawn, he checked his audio recorder again. Amid the tapping sounds, a faint voice emerged, little more than a shaped exhale forming syllables. Eli. His name, spoken by something that had no business knowing it. That day, the pharmacy claimed no elderly man had been there. No one matching his description had visited in weeks. Outside on the bulletin board, an old photograph showed Elias's house 40 decades earlier, windows boarded, a police line across the porch. A caption mentioned a family who moved out after unexplained nocturnal disturbances, always waking at the same hour. No injuries, no evidence. The house had a pattern. When he returned home, the brass key was no longer where he left it. Someone or something had centered it perfectly in the middle of the table. The locked door clicked open on its own. The chair inside the hidden room now faced the doorway. He backed away, but the air behind him stirred. A soft tap sounded from the chair. Then a faint whisper brushed his ear, its voice slightly stronger now, warmed by practice. Elias. He ran from the room, slammed the door, and fled into the night. He didn't think, he only moved, guided by adrenaline and the primal urge to get away from something that wasn't supposed to be able to grow or learn. Dawn eventually calmed him. The world brightened. Birds resumed their tiny songs. The house looked harmless again in the morning light. Exhaustion wore down his fear until returning felt easier than staying away. Just for an hour of sleep, he told himself, just enough to steady his thoughts. He locked his bedroom door, collapsed onto the bed, and fell asleep before finishing a full breath. When he woke, the room was filled with a strange, soft quiet, not threatening, worse, expectant. The clock read 9:14 a.m. Daylight seeped through the curtains. Everything looked normal. He almost convinced himself he had dreamed the past week entirely. Then the closet door opened on its own, a slow, smooth movement, the kind made by someone with infinite patience. A single tap echoed from inside, measured and familiar. Tap. The whisper that followed carried a new confidence, like something had been practicing its shape in the dark. Found you. The tapping resumed inside the closet, gentle and steady, as though whatever had hunted the hollow hours of his nights had finally figured out where he slept during the day.